I'm going to call this meeting to order. Tina Walters, chair.
All right, I don't see Christy on there anywhere, so I am going to be Shotzi, member.
Brandy Wilbur at large.
Russell Byerly at large.
Okay, we have a quorum. Let's stand for the pledge.
Christy is online.
Oh, Christy is online. Okay, we can only see two videos. No. All right, number 4, approval of the minutes from April 10th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
They're busy.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And oops, I missed 3. So is there any general public comment?
I'm looking to see if anyone's raising their hand. Not seeing anyone.
There's nobody online?
There's Commissioner Herman, Chief Pelt, Chelsea, I can't pronounce your last name, sorry. Scott, Lisa, Pam Dupree, and Pete Drunkers are all online, but none of their hands went up.
Okay, and nobody is raising their hand?
No.
Okay. Public safety updates. Hi, Deputy Cruz. Welcome.
Good evening, Deputy Cruz at the Sheriff's Office. The only item I want to relay is that I checked into your inquiry, Tina, about 911 calls getting routed out of the county. I can tell you at this point that the dispatch supervisor is looking into it. And hello. Just that. Dispatch supervisor is looking into it. Actually playing back the call and tracing which cell towers picked up the calls that you made.
Okay.
All right. So I'll get back to you with the results on that. Go ahead.
Those that didn't hear, we had a question at one of the previous meetings because our 911 calls were not going where they were supposed to go. So we were having a delay in service, and this is what the deputy just looked into, and they're working on it.
Any other questions I can answer? All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Emergency services and fire update. We have Assistant County Manager Dave Solaro here. Welcome, Dave.
For the record, Dave Solaro, Assistant County Manager. As you'll recall, we did not have a CAB meeting in March. However, we did hold a town hall meeting to discuss kind of some options that Washoe County has been looking at since we've got the notice from Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe that they're no longer going to be able to continue on with the service that they're providing up here. So based on the feedback we received from the board or from the community, I did a couple of things. I was working with REMSA out of Reno to see if there was a possibility that they could provide service. I was put in contact with Royal Ambulance, who provides services for Burning Man out on the playa, and also worked with the volunteer fire department here in town to see if there was a way that we could figure out whether there was some additional county employees that could be hired and what that might look like as far as a suitable or at least a sustainable ability to provide fire and EMS service for the Gerlach community. As you'll recall at that meeting in March, one of the limiting factors is the budget we've got available. And as between March and now, the Board of County Commissioners has actually adopted their budget for next fiscal year starting July 1st. That budget contains about $650,000 to be utilized here in Gerlach. That is the amount of money that was being utilized for the contract with Pyramid Lake, as well as the ancillary costs necessary to keep the lights on in the station, pay for the gas, all of those other sorts of things to run calls up here. And so based on the completion of the budget, part of that is also that Washoe County was not hiring any new staff. We were not putting on any new staff across the board. And so that kind of got us to the point working with the volunteers and others in the community that we can't hire staff. There was a proposal to do 3 people hired to do that. Even at that, though, the cost for that was closer to $800,000 by the time you pay a firefighter wages and the ancillary costs associated with that, with the insurance and everything else. So REMSA also notified me that they were not able to provide staffing up here. They wouldn't be able to do it. And so I continued discussions with Royal Ambulance, and we've worked out an agreement for Royal Ambulance to come up to the Gerlach area and provide services. I'm proposing this to the Board of County Commissioners on Tuesday at their 17th meeting. It was originally on the agenda for this week, but we decided to go ahead and hold off until I had a chance to come up and talk with you all tonight. But essentially, Royal Ambulance in the contract is currently set to schedule or to have paramedic service in Gerlach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Now, the caveat to that is the ability to transport for a 3-month period when the calls volume is low, because the amount of money we had will only require or only allow for an EMT to go along with that paramedic for 9 months out of the year. So Royal Ambulance is working with the state of Nevada on the licensing and making sure all of that works out. If we get to the point where they cannot make that work with the licensing with the state, I'm going to have to go back to the Board of County Commissioners to see if we can utilize some contingency to pay for that third EMT for the three months we are working on. That gets the town of Gerlach basically paramedic level service, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Still working through what does that really mean for fire service, because that's the other side of it. We've got a lot of mutual aid agreements with other entities, Humboldt, Truckee Meadows Fire, BLM, Surprise Valley. There are quite a few, Pyramid Lake even, but that initial attack fire service is going to be, something we're going to have to work on. I've been in contact with Russell and Lisa Nash with the volunteer fire department, trying to figure out if there's a way we can work through some of that. Now, part of that $650,000 also goes towards paying the insurance for the volunteers and some of those other sorts of things that had been picked up by Pyramid Lake. So we still have that in play. But I really wanted to just come and give an update to the community on where this stands right now, and that at Tuesday on the 17th at the board meeting, there's an agenda item for the board to contemplate a contract with Royal Ambulance. So with that, I will open it up to any questions that the board may have.
But then like in 2 weeks, we won't have any fire service except for 2 volunteers.
So that is unfortunately where we're at as far as, the ability to provide, in-town fire service. That is correct.
Shasi?
Welcome. I read the contract after I found out that it was going to be heard earlier this week, and said, wait a minute, I haven't looked at this contract before. And that my curiosity on one point, because I did not bring the notes, of course, and I can't remember the other point, is there's a part in there that says we're giving them access to all of the equipment that's in our firehouse. And I'm wondering, why are we including the fire engines when they're not going to provide any fire and it's still our volunteers? Because that paragraph kind of restricted the access by the volunteers unless they were given permission, is how I read it. It's like, wait a minute, if we're the ones fighting fires and they're in here, what? So I want to clarify, they get the ambulances because they're going to be doing EMS. Why do they need anything in that contract about the fire engines?
Thanks for the question. I believe that section that you're talking about is in the scope of work item, E, operation of county equipment.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yep. So operate Washoe County ambulances and other agreed upon apparatus under Royals Nevada State EMS agency permit, or as authorized by the county, such as apparatus are specified in the exhibit.
Mhm.
And so
And the exhibit included the fire engine.
yeah, the exhibit includes all of the apparatus that is in the bays next door. And so part of that is, as we work through this, There are other pieces of equipment, specifically there's a UTV that might be useful for
Mhm.
utilization for medical responses within the
Mhm.
community.
Correct.
And at the same time, we also, Royal does not want to operate a fire apparatus. So, quite frankly, it was easy to utilize the list of all the equipment that's up here and allow, use of that as authorized by the county. That doesn't mean it has to be done. And so, I don't think we're going to have Royal Ambulance up here just driving around town with fire trucks. That is for the use of the volunteers to utilize,
It's a skill set.
their piece. I'm sorry.
It's a skill set.
Absolutely it is. And you need to be properly trained and licensed to do all of those things. And so, the intent is not to have Royal just driving around in all the equipment, but the ability to, assist volunteers at some point as well. There are other provisions in here where they're requesting the ability to train with the volunteers when we're providing training. And so there are some skill sets that those Royal Ambulance attendants may want to utilize at some point, become trained in extrication as an example to assist the community as well.
Cool.
So that's one of the other reasons to leave that in there.
Okay. And vaguely, the other one I can recall was something about the quarters that we moved in over here for the firefighters. And I didn't see any contingency in there, say if one of our volunteers that do not live in Gerlach and do not have a home in Gerlach needs sleeping accommodations in order to come in and support our volunteers.
Right.
I'd like to see something about that in there because we need a place for them to sleep, and sometimes they can sleep at one of our houses and sometimes not.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I will work with Royal to see if there's a way to make that work. Certainly, they're not going to need to utilize the entire space. We're going to have to work through what that looks like. The volunteers have also asked for specific use of the office space within the apparatus bay here as well.
Fabulous.
So I think there's some things trying to work through, but as you're aware. Here in a short couple of weeks, we're not going to have any service,
I know.
and trying to
I
work
do
through that.
appreciate the work that's going into it and what we're getting, and
Thank you.
I've tabled my other discussion for later.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Dave? Russell?
So from January 1st to the end of March, this proposal is to have one paramedic in the ambulance alone, so they wouldn't be able to transport. They'd have to go to the patient, and then either an ambulance would have to come from a mutual aid agency or Care Flight would have to come and meet them. We've tried that before, and state EMS wouldn't go for it because this is not Gerlach's first time having a budget crisis with the fire department. This happens on 7-year cycles like cicadas. Every so often, the fire department is closed and it's a disaster, and then we think of something, and then the something runs out of money, and we're back where we started. Is there any indication from state EMS that they're going to approve this?
I've asked Royal Ambulance to chase that down with the state. They're the ones that have the contacts at the state. They've got all of that they're going to have to go through to license this. So we have had the conversation. What if the state does not bite on this process? I think we all see it maybe a little bit differently. What I'm trying to accomplish for this town is advanced level life support available within town. The transport question is a difficult one, right? And so whether we have to transport with the crews that are here, or whether that means someone else can come while that advanced life support is being taken care of, I think that's the real question there. But again, as I mentioned, if the state does not, buy off on the way that this is done, I will probably have to go back to the Board of County Commissioners to see if there's additional funding through the contingency to be able to fund that EMT for those other 3 months. We are just at a point where we are trying to do the best we can with the funding we've got, more funding than we've had in the past. So that's a good thing. Not quite enough to do exactly what the expectation, I think, of the community has become.
And do we have a number? Do we know what that additional expense would be that you're going back to the commissioners with?
Yeah, it's roughly $50,000.
So it would be about 700,000 a year.
Correct. Yep.
Christy has her hand up.
Hi all, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Christy.
I yield for
I
now.
apologize for the noise. I'm at work at San Francisco. Dave, thank you so much for being here and for that explanation. And I know funding is really key, so we certainly appreciate all your efforts and doing the manage around. I'm curious if you foresee, and I know the budget is not up to you, But, you know, when we get to new budget years, is there a potential for us to look at coverage? I think, you know, we've had a recent fire that was very destructive. Obviously EMS and fire services, you know, one of the most critical things is going to spend money somewhere. My opinion is not probably number one on the list. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about future options. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. I appreciate the question. One of the things, you know, that I continue to work through is trying to figure out how to bring more funding to this community for this service. So there are a couple of things actually that I'm looking at, and one of these is going to take the Board of Fire Commissioners. Sorry, I don't think it's the Board of County Commissioners. We are working about 7 years ago. There was a study done related to the expansion of Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District's service territories. And it appears that if we can take the service territory closer to Reno that includes Red Rock and Warm Springs Valley and expand the territory for Truckee Meadows there, and which includes increasing taxes on some of those residents that are not paying for fire service currently today, there would be then enough money in the general fund Washoe County budget that we are currently paying Truckee Meadows Fire to provide those services to potentially transfer up here. That's going to take a little bit of time. And so, you know, working through those pieces, and I don't think I see Commissioner Herman on Zoom, and I don't think she's heard, you know, this proposal. Certainly we have a new fire chief. And so I've got to talk with him about whether that works for them. Chief Moore and I had this conversation. Again, the study shows that it would pay for itself to be able to provide the services there. It doesn't pay for itself to provide the services up here. But there's about $540,000 in the budget that we pay Truckee Meadows Fire to provide those services down to closer to Reno. And so that we could potentially transfer that up to get back to the point where we're close to the ballpark of the amount of money that is necessary up here. That's on the fire side. On the other side, we have, I don't know if Brian Beffert, our sustainability manager, has been up to talk to the community recently, but we just received a $300,000 grant to study, microgrid electricity. There are some opportunities there to potentially oversize that and sell that power. Lots of conversations that would need to occur with the GGID, who would have the authority to be able to do that sort of thing. But there's another revenue source that we're looking at that potentially we could help the community in these things that are necessary up here as funding sources that are fairly sustainable at this point. So hope that answers your question.
Russell, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few more questions. So the contract as written that was posted originally to be considered by the county commissioners last week gave Royal Ambulance the full use of the Gerlach Volunteer Fire Department brand. And that's not something that the Gerlach Volunteer Fire Department was consulted on. We didn't even know that that was part of the deal until we saw in the press release, until the contract was posted. And I think there's a lot of people in the community who see that brand as having a lot of blood and sweat equity going back generations here in Gerlach. We've had a volunteer fire department for, I don't know, as long as there's been a town here. And I think it's important to us that that brand stay in the community. When we spoke earlier and you said it'd be possible to strike that from the contract, is that something that's being done?
So I want to clarify, what the contract says. It essentially basically says we would leave the brand on the ambulance and we would add the Royal brand next to it because we don't want to get rid of the identity of Gerlach and the Gerlach Volunteer Fire Department. You know, the nature of the way this contract is written is to also include the volunteers in the actual response for medical services and other. And so, if the community, doesn't want to have the Royal brand next to the volunteer brand, I think there's additional conversation that needs to occur. But after speaking again with Royal, we're not trying to take over the brand. We're trying to make sure that everybody understands that this is, the service to the community. And so I think some further conversations can occur with the volunteers, whether that's appropriate to have the two brands on a vehicle. And I think that, that Royal was simply wanting to make sure that the community understands that this is here for them, is really the intent behind that.
I think this is my last question. The contract also gives Royal the full use of the the fire station here. And, when we spoke earlier, we discussed this. I've been through my records. I've talked to all of the old time volunteer firemen who are still around. And we don't have any record or any living memory of the firehouse here belonging to anyone but the GID. And the land belongs to the GID. As far as we can tell, the building belongs to the GID, and the GID did not approve any plan for a third party to make use of the facility and the land. Is there any consideration of how we can get a lease in front of the board for their approval before this goes into effect?
I as well have looked for documentation and all of these other sorts of things. What we have found is that there was a 3-bay addition to this facility. Operated, I think Gabrielle is here in the office. She's going to slay me for not remembering the full conversation we had. Essentially, we applied for a grant to be able to do that. So Washoe County essentially applied for a grant, managed the project, expanded the building. We could not find any documentation that says, oh yeah, Washoe County, it's okay for you to build on top of, Gerlach GID land. I think that through the years, quite frankly, this has been done through a series of handshakes and everybody trying to just do what's best for the community with what we have. If it is the intent of the Gerlach GID to want to have a lease in place before we start this process, I will go back to the drawing board and figure out how to get ambulance service in this community starting, as close to July 1st as I can, even if it means parking the ambulance outside across the street at the living quarters. I'm hopeful that the community is, at least wanting to have this service. And I would think that we could work through a process, but certainly if the GGID wants to have a lease with Washoe County or others, certainly we will start that process and get it done, but I don't see it happening in 2 weeks.
Well, obviously it's not up to me. Nobody ever voted for me. I like to be very clear about that. But the GID board is concerned about liability, first and always. We don't have to lose a lawsuit to bankrupt this district. So they're concerned that if some individuals who are not vetted by us and they're not a government agency are using our property, then we could conceivably be liable if something goes wrong. And it's not going to take a lot to remedy that, but the work has to be done, I think.
So I suppose, it's going to be difficult to work through with the GGID through a process, but I will talk with our insurance, our internal, to see if there's if we can name the general improvement district as an additional insured with the insurance we've got through this process. I'll talk with Royal as well and see if that's something that we can do to make sure that we're at least covered on that piece as we work through getting an actual lease put in place.
Actually, I lied. I have one more question. Also, the agreement says that Gerlach volunteers and mutual aid agencies will be responsible for fire services. Is Washoe County prepared to provide additional support with things like training, equipment, insurance, to help us step up to that? Because the volunteers were not, quite frankly, we were not prepared for Pyramid Lake to pull out of this contract, and we're not ready to step up with the level of support that we have from the community right now. Can Washoe County help us with that?
Yeah, no, certainly that is part of what I'm already actually paying Truckee Meadows Fire. Now, I understand that there's some concern about whether Truckee Meadows Fire is the right agency to be able to do that. I do know that Chief Pelt has also offered to offer training to the community as well. I think the big issue is, where does that training occur? How do we work that out? Washoe County ourselves, we don't have a training force for firefighting. We rely on Truckee Meadows Fire. So if the volunteers are okay with Truckee Meadows Fire, I will certainly get you involved in the training regimen with Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. Excuse me, as well as continue that conversation with Chief Pelt from Pyramid Lake.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Shots, you have another question?
Follow up, because you were talking about the leases and stuff. And I've been here, 11 years, coming up on 12. And it was a few years after I got here that, excuse me, the volunteers departed and we were left stranded, and they hired Truckee Meadows. So that's within the last 10 years, at least, if not 9. So there may be a lease floating around somewhere at your Truckee Meadows people, but I don't remember any lease. They just kind of showed up one day and started on the job. What I do remember is finding the firehouse stripped while they were here and when they left. They took a lot of memorabilia off the walls from old firefighters and old ceremonies they had and things. So, for the volunteers as well as for when you talk to Royal, please leave our history alone. Let us keep our firehouse decorated the way we have our firehouse decorated.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out.
Gerlach Art Trail Trailhead update. Gabrielle Enfield is here. Hi, Gabby.
Good evening. For the record, Gabrielle Enfield, Washoe County Community Reinvestment Manager. I'm going to give you just a little bit of an update on the art trail. It's been a long time process, and Tina asked for an update, so I'm going to let you know where we're at right now. So the last time probably that I came and spoke to you guys, we were talking about the placing a new piece of art here in Gerlach to be that trailhead of the Washoe Art Trail. And the major component that was a barrier at that point in time and is still our next hurdle is a piece of property to put the art on. So we've been working on looking at the parcel that the 38.6 acre parcel that is right when you first come into town, and looking at that piece of property that it may be an appropriate place for the art, as well as a trailhead for the Gerlach Trail that can go across the playa over to the Guru Road area. We've identified, I began a contract with the Nevada Land Trust. They were looking at possibilities of ways that opportunities that the GID that owns this parcel that we're looking at could consider in restricting the property specifically for recreational cultural use long term. So one of the options is a conservation easement, which is the safest and most secure way to restrict that property, but it's also the more difficult and time-consuming way to do that. Other options include possibly a long-term lease agreement between Washoe County and the Gerlach GID, or we also found an agreement between Washoe County and the Gerlach GID in August of 1990. And some of you may know the history of the collaboration between the county and the GID for the two parks that are here in town right now, the Water Tower Park and then the Community Center Park. It's possible we could do something similar to that. Just basically an agreement between the GID and Washoe County with stipulations on what are the terms and conditions of that agreement and the time frame for that, allowing Washoe County to place a piece of art and maybe a parking area, and then and it may be for all or portion of the 38 acres. So basically, that's where we have come at this point in time. I met this week with Alicia, and so we're going to prepare these options to submit to the GID and get feedback from them on what they want to do next. So that's the first piece, is we need to have a piece of property to put it on. The next thing we need is some money to go ahead and do an art process and create a piece of art. So the county commissioners have awarded arts and culture grant for which could include the art up here at Gerlach for the art trail and that grant. We currently have access to those funds. The total is $500,000. But it is not just for this project. It's also, we're going to be doing murals. And I do want to say, I know this is the one I'm here to talk about, but we drove around town and the murals up here are amazing, so beautiful, really great job. And I'm really proud to see them here. And so we're going to do similar things throughout all of unincorporated Washoe County and all of Washoe County, putting murals on our county buildings. So we have some county buildings here, but also on utility boxes. When you drive around in Reno and Sparks, you probably see the little murals on the utility boxes. To the extent possible, we'll do those out here in Gerlach and in the other unincorporated areas of Washoe County. So everybody gets some of that art. So we do have some funding available. That funding needs to be expended before December 31st of 2026. So there's some urgency. So me and my team have been very busy with a large number of projects with the sliver of funding. And right now we're going into a phase where we have less projects and I have full staffing. So we can dedicate more time and effort to this project. Questions?
Okay, hi. Yeah, I love this idea. We've been working on it. It feels like forever. I have two things. One, is any of the artists that we looked at one time that rethunk our ideas and came up with some new plans after we didn't like the first plan, is question number one. And number two was, I remember there was a lot of questions from the people on the GGID at the time about, well, sure, fine, let's talk about that piece of property, but who's going to maintain it and where's that money going to come from?
Right.
So that needs to be resolved too.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So the first part is we would invite the previous artists to participate. We would also do a public and open engagement and input and a new call for artists. So we basically, it's been a long time since we did it. It's a whole new environment, new artists, I mean, we love to support local artists. So we were able to engage local artists for the other trailhead that's at Crystal Peak. But we would do an open competitive. And I know that the last time we did the artist competition, it was for the two trailheads and we had a broad committee that included one person from Gerlach. Now that we're going to be at this end and we're really just doing this piece of art, we will still have folks from different components, but we definitely will have the representation from the Gerlach community. And even before that process, do some engagement and give an opportunity to the community to really tell us what they're looking for. So when we design the artist call, we have a little bit more information to give the artist when they propose a piece of art for this community. Sure.
Questions? Russell?
I'd just like to chime in now for a life-size sandcastle.
Okay. Send it through the whole process so I can put it on the list. Life size camp. Yeah.
Any more
It is
questions?
playa.
That's not a bad idea.
It's not.
Any more questions? Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you.
All right, presentation and draft ordinance outlining Nevada Starry Skies certification process. So Dave Cooper is not here. Is it Chelsea?
Oh,
are
yeah,
you-
sorry.
Ah.
The permissions were switched to me, so I had to rejoin, and so the audio cut out, so I didn't quite catch all that. Is my presentation pulled up?
Not yet.
Not yet. If I
Um,
also have it like ready to go if I need to share it.
yeah, I think they have to make you a,
let's see.
So I sent Dave Cooper both the PowerPoint and then the PDF as well, just in case we had any technical difficulties.
I have the PDF. If you
Okay.
give me a second. It's this model lighting ordinance, correct?
So that is the actual like
Ordinance.
language that would go into the ordinance. But this would be the PowerPoint presentation itself, kind of giving an overview of the Nevada Starry Sky certification program.
Okay, I don't have that, but maybe it's on.
So I can also share it on my end.
yeah, if you just make her a co-host, she can share it.
Yeah, so I
Sure.
am a co-host.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I can send a request. So I sent you a request.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just thought through all the technical difficulties we might have tonight. Okay, perfect. And so hopefully you guys can see my screen now.
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Hold please. So I was able to get the sharing permissions. Okay. Can you see it now?
No. It's coming up now.
Coming. Perfect. All right. Let me get this into.
We can see it now.
All right. Perfect. Let me. I'm not as familiar with Google Slides, so getting it into the PowerPoint mode is what I need to figure out next. So this is where those technical difficulties come into play. Okay. Well, if it's all right with you guys, I can just go ahead and just kind of click through the slides. If that
Yeah,
works
that's fine.
for you. Okay.
That's totally fine.
All right. Thank you guys. So for the record, my name is Chelsea Kinchlow. I am with the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation. And I'm here this evening to present to you guys on the Nevada Starry Skies certification program. So to give you guys a little bit of overview about the Division of Outdoor Recreation. So we were established in 2019 as a growing movement across the United States to establish more outdoor recreation divisions and departments at state levels, primarily to advance and promote sustainable world-class outdoor recreation opportunities throughout Nevada. There's a lot that we got going on and we're working on. But some of the goals are to support Nevada's outdoor recreation economy, establish Nevada as a home for world-class outdoor recreation, affirm outdoor recreation's role in improving public health and community wellness, and a couple more things that we are working on as a division. And one of those things is dark skies. And a big portion of that is because Nevada has incredible dark skies. This is probably a view you guys see frequently up in Gerlach. Just the opportunity to step outside, look up and see that Milky Way very vibrant in the sky. And this is something that, you know, is accessible to a lot of people in rural communities, but it's not accessible to everyone in brighter areas such as like Vegas, Carson, Reno, those types of areas. And so if we look at the world map, we can see that light pollution is increasing. At this point, it's 10% worldwide, that it's increasing each year as we start to sprawl and develop more. And so we are losing our incredible dark skies, but we are very fortunate out here in the West because we have these pockets of these pristine dark skies that we can go out and still see. But a big part of like the Nevada Starry Sky certification is to work within community levels to improve the overall visibility of the dark skies by reducing light pollution of a site. And so when we think about light pollution, we have our average Joe here who's just standing next to a light. And as we look at lights in cities and in rural areas, you know, a lot of light often is not pointing where it needs to be, which is down. Okay, so we have the light going down here, but then we also have it kind of shooting off in all directions. I'm sure some of you who have had your neighbor's lights glaring through your windows at night, which is really annoying. And so the focus is to start pointing lights down at the ground. And so we have the dangers of light pollution as well. So we have the human health impacts, disruptions to our natural circadian rhythm, which can contribute to sleep disorders and mental health challenges, heart disease, immune system dysfunctions, metabolic disorders, obesity, and cancer. That's all from like accredited medical institutes. And then of course we have the negative impacts on pollinators and plants. So within Nevada, we have 21 primrose plants that rely on a hawk moth to pollinate. If a site gets oversaturated with light, then that hawk moth can't really find the primrose to pollinate it. And then that jeopardizes some of our rare primroses we have here in the state. So kind of thinking about like what qualifies as a good quality night sky, we kind of rely on something called the Bortle scale. So this is like one of the ways in which we measure our night sky. So what I would encourage you all to do, I know it's the full moon right now, but at the next new moon, I would just encourage you guys to step outside and look up and kind of see what you can see in the stars above and kind of determine what that quality of sky is that you guys have up in Gerlach. So if we look at 1, that's like the excellent dark sky. And then we go all the way to 8 and 9, which is like that inner city sky. So my guess is like, you guys would be between a 2 and 3 up there in Gerlach because you don't have like a lot of light pollution up there. And so when we start thinking about like quality of night sky, we also are tying that in with, we have a lot of opportunities and events even going on that are promoting our incredible night skies. And so I've been talking to state parks. They get 100 to 200 participants at Washoe State Park for stargazing events, 100 and 150 at Fort Churchill. And then down in the south at Spring Mountain Ranch, they get 400 and 450 participants each year that come out for stargazing events. We also have the fabulous Park to Park in the dark, which is where you start at either Great Basin or down at Death Valley, and you travel along these remote areas and you are able to view some of these communities' very pristine dark skies. And we also have a growing number of observatories out here. So the 4-H Club in Alamo, Nevada is working on an observatory. Great Basin Observatory, Flashman Observatory, and then Jack C Observatory are all as things that we have out here that promote our incredible dark skies and give kids a really great chance to learn more about dark skies. And then we have what I think is like really important for folks up in Gerlach, which is the astrotourism opportunities. So Forbes in 2024 declared it like one of the biggest growing trends that they've seen for travel purposes. And so if we look specifically at Flagstaff, Arizona, which is the first dark sky international community, they have the ability to host star parties in their parks or open spaces like right there in town. And it also provides like close access to night sky in urban areas and reduces the overlighting in a community. So along with that, we also are seeing several communities across the state starting to establish dark sky lighting ordinances to help reduce the light pollution of a site, but also to help preserve it. And communities like Pahrump have a dark sky lighting ordinance. Lyon County has one. as does Carson City. So we're kind of starting to see more communities think about how to protect their communities and preserve the natural environment around them. And we also have, thanks to Friends of Nevada Wilderness, the Save Dark Skies license plate. So Pam can maybe give us like an update on the number, but I believe it is like 3,000 registered. They need 1,000 to keep the license plate each year. And they are using the funds from those registration for monitoring programs, because Nevada is very much lacking on that forefront. Public education, promoting astro-tourism, and infrastructure improvements as well. And just to kind of keep like going on with the importance of dark skies, you know, Dark Sky International is having a lot more certifications in the Western states. So here in Nevada, we have Massacre Rim, which is an international dark sky sanctuary, Great Basin National Park, Death Valley, and then Boulder City actually received an EDA grant to retrofit lights in hopes of becoming Nevada's first dark sky international community certified community. But we also are kind of have Oregon and Utah, who are also growing and doing a lot of designations out in their parks and natural spaces as well. So it is something that people are paying attention to and wanting to promote and preserve, which kind of brings us to the Nevada Starry Sky certification. So this is a certification established in 2021. It is done through a Senate bill, which makes us like one of the very first states to have done this. And it's the mission to promote, preserve, protect, and enhance Nevada's dark sky resources. So if we're looking at who can apply, we're looking at unincorporated communities, homeowners associations, tribal governments, parks, open spaces, businesses, and then schools, which are public and private K through 12 schools and higher education programs as well. So the goal of the Nevada Starry Sky certification is to focus on the community level by working with local organizations and entities to reduce light pollution with communities. So for this certification process, and I imagine you guys are gonna have a lot of questions, and that's okay, I'm gonna be here to answer them. So we're modeling similar to Dark Sky International, but again, at like a smaller level. So Dark Sky International is working with like communities. They will also have like parks certification that you can get and sanctuaries that you can get established. But as part of that certification process, you do have to create some type of lighting management plan, create an internal lighting policy, or in like your guys' instance, we're looking at the lighting ordinance. Lighting plans entails noting the location, purpose, manufacturer, lamp type, spectrum, lamp lumens, et cetera, and then also utilizing what we call like a lighting zones plan, which is identifying lights in your community that, you know, are absolutely necessary, should be on most of the day versus the ones that you are not necessarily needing. And all of this too is integrating what we consider like the principles of outdoor lighting. So there's useful and targeted, low level, controlled, and warm colored. And all of these principles together also help contribute to lowering overall energy use of the community of Gerlach as well. And so we have like kind of these best lighting practices, right? So we have our glaring light bulbs, which are unacceptable. Then we get into the very bad. And then by the time we're getting to like kind of those best lighting practices, we have something that's like fully shielded, but also has like a timer or motion sensor on that. So tonight's presentation is pretty short, just because I want to give you guys like an overview and then jump into questions that you guys might have. So next steps kind of for Gerlach is we are looking to work with Washoe County to draft lighting ordinance language and work to pass the language through the Washoe County commissioners, and then working with Dave Cooper and the community of Gerlach to complete a lighting inventory of public lights in Gerlach. So as part of the certification, it does not include private home ownership, just because like that is something that homeowners still have a right to put lights on their property. So we're looking more at like the schools, like the businesses, the community center, like places like that to do the lighting inventory with. And then the application for the Nevada Starry Sky program is open every year from October 1st to October 31st. And so I will open the floor up to questions. That's also my email address. That's my office line. And I believe the QR code scans directly to the Dark Sky website, as well as the Endor website that we have as well. So I'm going to stop sharing now and kind of open up to the floor for questions.
Questions? Russell?
Yes, I do see here that the scope of this is all zones within Gerlach. Gerlach is a census designated place that doesn't really have clearly defined boundaries, but also you can see for 30 miles in some directions. So our concerns are not just in town, but also about a large mining operation, or we had a
Sure.
proposal for a large power plant that was only about half a mile out of town. So is it possible to expand this to include maybe a 5-mile radius?
Yeah, so this is something I believe we talked with Brian Bedford a little bit about, was the actual cab, like where the district was at. And so that would be a question that I'd have to follow up with him about exactly where the boundaries of the ordinance could expand to.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Our cab boundaries are the edge of the reservation to Oregon.
Well, it used to be. Now it's what? It's like 400 feet from the center of town. It got a little smaller.
Any more questions? Are there any more questions for Chelsea?
There's a question from Pete Dronkers has his hand up.
Okay, Pete.
Let me go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Pete.
Great. So at the last presentation, it sounded like, and from what I gather from other sources, that there wouldn't really be a lot of binding outcome with all of this in terms of lighting practices. But now that we're talking about the county ordinance, it does seem like an ordinance would have some teeth to it in terms of lighting practices. Is the idea behind the ordinance to do that, to accomplish that, or would it just be like almost a sort of recognition of starry skies generally? Like,
Mhm.
does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a little bit. And if my answer is still off, like just let me know. But it is to actually implement like more lighting best practices, like reduce the overall lumens of lighting again on buildings that are public facing. And not just only like recognize that you guys have like incredible dark skies, but again, to reduce overall light pollution through those lighting retrofits.
So would there be an addition to the Washoe County Development Code, to the building code, that would incorporate these things to make it binding, or what would that look like, or could potentially look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and that's something that I need to work more with Washoe County on, because like while I run the certification program, I haven't really gone through the full process of doing in like a ordinance from start to finish. This would be like really good like learning opportunities for me. And so I'm not sure like what part of the county code it would go to. And I can always follow up with that
Okay, great,
answer
thanks.
once I
Yeah,
talk to Washoe County. Yeah,
I think for me, that's the burning question about this is
sure.
holding, once the ordinance is established, that's incredible, that's great. But
Mhm.
it has, in my view, at least, it has to be binding somehow for it to be
Sure.
effective, because some people aren't into this concept for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I personally am. I think everybody should be, but that doesn't mean that everybody is.
No, sure. And we understand that completely.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions for Chelsea?
And if anyone in the public who can't provide comment right now has like additional concerns or questions, feel free to email me. I put that email up there. Or Dave Cooper has it once he's back from fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you, guys.
Number 9 is a standing item, neighborhood development hub and other engagement opportunities. So we just go through this all the time. You go on the website.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I can run through it real quick if you want and show you some things. I know you guys probably see it every week. Of course, I share my screen. There is at least one newer thing. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Awesome. So I know you guys know about the development hub, so I can spare you that, but there is a new engagement. Of course, this toolbar is in the way for me to see. Opportunity, which is the Budget 101, which is coming up. I believe it's July 22nd. Wrote it down somewhere and then I lost it. At 5:30, and you can go into the engagement page where you would find the same Gerlach one. And we're asking people to please do give their feedback before that session so that the budget team has a good understanding of what issues people would find with that, and just give your input. So if you have any questions on that, or if you don't understand how to get there, do let me know. Yeah, July 22nd, 5:30 to 7 p.m. And we'll have Abby, Claire Andriola, Kathy Hill, Lori Cook, all there. But this way we every week I'm looking at what input we get, and then I'm sending that in to Abby Jakubin, and she's kind of taking that information so we can have a good idea of what kind of questions people are going to be asking ahead of time.
Okay, and will there be a Zoom link for that meeting?
I don't know off the top of my head. Let's see. What, I no, yeah, that I don't know. So I can get back to you tomorrow morning and ask Candy. I'm sure she'll know.
Okay. All right, great. Any more
And ask
questions about this? Any hub questions? Well, that sounds interesting. So
Yeah. If you're ever curious on how the county spends the money, that's a good one to pay attention to and increase some transparency. And then, board and commission opens as well. You can find these as well. Board of Equalization and then EMS Advisory Board opening. I think those aren't till later. They expire June 30th, 2026. And this one's beginning July 24th for EMS. Just throwing that out there as well. And any other questions?
any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, number 10, report on requests for service from previous CAB meetings. So I don't really have any updates on anything we've done in previous CAB meetings for this one. So then I'll just go to 11 and say commissioner and board member items. Our county commissioner is here. Hi, Jeannie. And our county manager Brown is also here in the audience.
There we go. Hi, everybody. You're having
Hi,
a
Jeannie.
nice long meeting. You've got a lot of county people here, so I won't keep you. I feel so bad about this fire issue, and if there's any way we could figure out a way to rob the bank or something, get some money and do that fire thing. But right now, we've had people working awful hard on it. So Dave and our county manager, you need to let him speak to you today too. So I'll let you go, and I'll be praying for you for sure.
Thank you, Jeannie. County Manager Brown, do you want to say anything?
Commissioner. Um, so I do want to acknowledge and thank Dave for his efforts on the CMS and fire situation. You all know it's it's a difficult issue, and when it first came up, we were clear with you that we were going to continue to look for solutions, and that hasn't changed now. So I won't say any more about that because you guys have covered that already. I just want you to know that even though I haven't been here for a little bit due to some things going on in within the McCarran Loop, it's something that we talk about and have been working on constantly. The reason I'm really here tonight is to let you know that if you haven't already heard, that at the Board of County Commission meeting this Tuesday, this week, I submitted, I announced I'm stepping down as the county manager after 5.5 years. So it is a tough thing to do. I love this county. I love this community. You guys know that. I come up here, I try to get up here as often as I can. It's my favorite part of the county still. But unfortunately, I think over the last maybe 12 to 18 months, there have been some changes in the demeanor of some of the commissioners, not Jeannie, who has been wonderful and continues to be very supportive. But it's gotten to a point where it's clear to me that that her peers want another manager of their choosing. And you can't blame them for that. I mean, I've been here for 5.5 years. The average county manager or city manager, according to ICMA, is 3.5 to 4 years. So it's been a good run. It's not unusual that as the city councils or the commissions turn over and you get new members, they have a different idea about what they'd like to see in the leadership than their predecessors did. So I'm not mad at anybody. I'm very thankful for the time I've spent here in Washoe County. I am stepping down from the county, but I'm not going to clip coupons and sleep on the couch because that's not how I'm made. So I will take a little time off for me and Melody, and then I will launch into some exploration of what's next for Eric, hopefully here in Northern Nevada. But we'll see. But I did want to come anytime there's good news or bad news up here. I've never been afraid to come up and face the community and say, here's what it is. Here's what it is. And again, I want to thank Jeannie for all her support. But it's time. I think it's time. And so any questions?
We're going to miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Crying shame. You've accomplished a lot for this community alone. And I'm going to miss you something terrible. We got our DSL. We got 2 fire departments. May not have been all quick and snappy stuff, but we got it done.
Yeah.
And you helped a lot, along with the rest of the people who work at the county. Commissioners, Jeannie Harriman, yes. But Eric, I'm going to miss you something terrible. And the transition's going to be hard because they're throwing away something that was absolutely wonderful and they're going to try on a new model and we got to go through the pain again.
Yeah.
Thank you for going through with it for 5 years with us.
Thank you for those kind words. I'm not dying.
But it feels like you're dying.
Not like I'm, so
EGID in 2 years.
Well,
Chrissy
even as
has
I
her
s-
hand raised as well.
Christy. Christy, we can't hear you. No, we can barely hear you. Text Shotzi your question. Oh, text Brandy your question. We can't hear you at all.
talking to Christy.
Is that any better?
Oh, that's
we-
much better.
Oh my
Now we
goodness.
can hear
Okay.
you.
I'm so sorry. My situation. Okay, I'll be quick. Manager Brown, I'm devastated to hear this news. I hope it's a good move for you. I just want to say how thankful I am for everything that you've done for the community of Gerlach. You are such a wonderful asset to this county, and I just all the things in the world for what a wonderful person you are and how much you care and for all your efforts. So thank you, and we will miss you.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
I'll still be watching.
Well, I want to make note that we have a QR code now at the bottom of our agendas. I requested these. You can scan. You can scan the QR code to request anything to be on the agenda or hear updates. And that's going to be on our agendas going forward. Any more board member items? Shotzi. Your microphone's not on.
Be polite about that and not put it in the general public. But anywho, we had a great art tour here recently with that grant that Gabby was talking about where the mural started. And I was one of the little golf cart drivers, and I happened to have somebody from a Tourism Nevada board on my little golf cart, and we talked for a long time. So I'd like to have something added to the agenda for us to explore how it would probably go to the GGID and or the fire department. We can get our 16% tourist tax or whatever it is that Bruno's charges on all of their hotels and accommodations. Because that funding is going somewhere because nobody here seems to know anything about receiving that amount of money. So we've got that. We've got, I think we get, I don't know who else makes money from tourism in this town because I don't know which rule to look up yet, but I'd love to be pointed in the right direction to find out where this money's at. So if we could look into that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Any more board member items? Any comments from the public? Luis, then Carl.
Louis Garcia for the record. I have three things that I just want to say. One of them is a PSA that I'm going to save for the end. First is to thank all the county folks that have come, both in person and online. It means a lot to us, so thank you. I didn't get to meet or work with you, Mr. Brown, but seems like you're pretty swell, so I guess I will miss you as well. I wrote down what I wanted to say because I didn't want to just go off cuff with it in typical fashion of myself. So just give me one moment to pull it up. And here we are. Good evening. I want to speak honestly and from the heart and not in any official capacity as the postmaster, just as a member of this community who genuinely cares about the people who live here. Gerlach is a small town, and in a small town, what people do to each other matters deeply. When someone tries to sabotage their neighbor, especially someone living on a fixed income, just to make a point, I believe it's wrong. When someone goes as far as trying to get someone fired over a pride flag, I believe that crosses some serious lines. It isn't just a flag, and it isn't just about one person. It's about the type of community that we're choosing to be. Pride isn't a political statement. It is a human rights movement that was federally recognized by President Bill Clinton in 1999. I was 9 years old when that happened. Not to push a party agenda, but to acknowledge decades of struggle, exclusion, and harm. The pride flag isn't about telling people how to vote or what to vote for. It's about saying you belong. It's about recognizing that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, plus Americans still do not have the same rights, protections, or sense of safety that others enjoy. Whew. And it matters to me because this is my life. The pride flag is an advocacy flag, much like the MIA and POW flag. It represents people who are still fighting to be fully seen and treated equally. It does not threaten anyone's rights. It simply asks that others be allowed to have the same. Now, I want to speak directly to something I've observed in this town. There are folks, some of them longtime locals, who seem to resent everyone and everything. Some seem to resent everyone and everything. People who say they love this town but show it by pushing others out, by stirring division, or trying to shut people down.
Thank you, Luis.
Am I up?
Yep.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks. I will send you the rest.
Carl?
Good evening, Carl Kopeck for the record. I'd like to thank Commissioner Manager Brown and Assistant Manager Salerno for coming out here and Commissioner Manager Brown and Commissioner Herman for being with us this evening. For all your hard work and everything you've done for Gerlach over the years. I acknowledge and appreciate your efforts and your understanding of the community and what we need to function up here and the empathy and you're really appreciated. I think you understand that. I don't want to repeat myself. On the subject of the fire business and the EMS, I thank you for your transparency on the situation, hard work and diligence to see us through to something to solve this problem ultimately and I realize this is a blip in the situation and that you are trying to get us the local fire service restored and anything that the community to do to work with the county together to collectively to get that fire station operational again. I think the community desperately wants that and wants to work with the county, especially in terms of that potential solar resource that Brian Befford identified as a revenue source. I think not immediately, but in the not too distant future, that might be a way to fund that fire department fully. I'll speak to Lewis's situation and speech just briefly. That's complex. This is a get along, go along community, and I don't want to see anybody's feelings hurt, and I don't want to see anybody harmed physically, and people should be safe here. And people threatening people because they feel a certain way or represent something is completely wrong, and I want to stand up for them. Conversely, this is an old Western town, and certain things don't necessarily fly here, and we need to give respect to get respect, and coming in here waving new flags that people don't fully understand and appreciate is a delicate matter. And it needs to be done with the utmost tact and civility and understanding that some people are never going to understand that, and they maybe not need to be treated with kid gloves, but just there's a way of the West, and that way needs to be understood and appreciated, because some of the other ways of the West are frightening, just plain frightening, and we don't want that stuff to start here, and we want to keep the peace. So I'll just leave it at that. And that's my time. One more time, thank you for everybody coming out, the public and our law enforcement. You're doing great work. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Carl. Any more public comment?
No one online.
Thank you. All right. Oh, sure.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Grau. I'm a CEO, founder for Royal Ambulance. So came up here today to meet with everybody and to say, thank you so much for including us in the consideration for providing services. Wonderful town. It's been a pleasure listening to really an eloquent consideration to how challenges need to be met in the community, and that certainly is felt on our side, understanding the unique dynamic that this town has. And certainly, we're pretty new to this kind of environment. We came up here last year, worked our ass off at Burning Man, provided EMS. I started the company about 20 years ago. We were a tiny little provider in the Bay Area, and over time we served 6 counties, grown to over 800 people that deeply care for the communities that we serve. And so our responsibility is to do exactly this, is come here, listen, understand what this community is all about, understand the ins and outs of how we can deliver service to meet your needs, and do it to the best work that we can. And for, my responsibility as the owner founder is to live by these values that, consistent and transparent dialogue that deeply believes in how we adapt to this environment, and really learn from you on how we do the best job possible in terms of taking care of this community. And that's, our responsibility is how do we hire and train that people that can be effective in being members of the community, because we're gonna certainly live here with you. And so that's our commitment, see how things unfold. And the next, this is John Ray. John Ray is our master clinical manager. He's been in rural medicine and done there most of his amazing career as a flight nurse and a medic. But the point of the story is, again, we're here, we're available. We certainly want to become a part of the community as well. And we're hopeful that this is going to work out really well. My commitment is that we're going to work our ass off to make this work. So that's it. Thank you for an opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.